Reverend Charles Glover Sr. is a local pastor and the chair of the Charleston County School District's District 23 Constituent School Board. Now he's a Democratic candidate for South Carolina House District 116. Charles tells me why he's running for this seat for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Reverend Charles Glover Sr., welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Nice to be here, Quintin. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I know that obviously you are chair of Charleston County School District's District 23 Constituent Board. And of course, we know that you are a local pastor. You're also a Democratic candidate for South Carolina House District 116. And after obviously redistricting, Charles, what parts of the district does that cover?
That covers part of James Island, Jones Island. It stretches around the Walmart part of the outer area. It doesn't go too far into like the Kiowa, Seabrook Island area. And the redistricting, the rezoning, you only have part of West Ashley. The first part of West Ashley is in it, and part of Walterboro, Charleston County, I would say.
Yeah.
During the Rondo, Cottesville area, and it goes on around to part of the low part of Walterboro area. But the rezoning is really, I don't understand why and what the purpose of. But when you look at it, it just to get more support and get the changes in the candidates that are running for these different offices.
So what changes have you seen so far with the redistricting when it comes to House District 116?
Well, the changes that I've seen, they pretty much they changed the demographics of it. When they changed that, which 116 would almost majority, I would say I would use the figure 80-20 ratio with black and white voters, and it's pretty much changing now. I would say it would probably be like maybe 60 to 40, something like that.
Wow.
So it's pretty.
Right. Yes, sir. Yeah, I lost you just a second there. But let me ask you this, Charles. As you know, that part of the rural area part of Charleston and Colleton counties have always been rural and kind of quiet. But now,
Yes,
as
sir.
you know, a lot of people are moving there. So how does that particular district adjust with the growth, with smart growth?
Well, from talking to some of the people over there, I was over there a week or two ago. They want changes, but they want changes for the better. They wanting more into the communities, wanting more changes in the community. They saying that we vote for these.
Yes, sir.
We vote for these candidates, but when you vote for them, they don't do anything for the district per se. So my thing is with that, I'm pretty much a person that you doesn't have to pay me to do anything because that's what I do. I've been in politics since 1984. Politics is nothing new to me. I worked under two elected officials. I worked under Sheriff Chuck Dolly before he died, and I worked under Chuck Al Cannon, and political leader of social racial injustice. I've been in the school system here in my district for 16 years, and I chaired my board.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Somebody that's experienced when it comes down to politics.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And Charles, when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, you told me the biggest difference between you and your opponent.
Yes, basically, I'm well qualified. I'm well experienced because I know the ins and outs. I fought for everybody for the John Lewis Voters Right Act. I fought for that on the state house, and I went before the. No, that's all. That's all I do is know. That's all I know is politics. I'm a fighter, and that's one thing. I don't back down from a fight. That's just me. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And for racial and social injustice and the way people are being treated, I always wish to treat people the way that I've been treated, especially on these different jobs and stuff. You just don't treat people any kind of way except them to feel that they should accept that. and that's something that I've been doing, for years.
You talk about the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. So what particular results have you seen in House District 116 as a result of that?
Well, you got a lot of elected officials, House leaders there. Um, they all, most of them, matter of fact, when we were at the state house, they all stood. Some of them came on the outside and actually stood in the press conference that we had. And when we went before the subcommittee, there was a group of us that was down there, and even we had a group of young people that was down there from uh, Black Lives Matter and a couple other groups that were there. So it was pretty much supported. And even when they had the entourage with the bus traveling to Washington D.C., we all met in Columbia and had hosted a big meeting there. And then when they left Columbia, they left there to go to Washington D.C. to the to this to go before.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, let me ask you this, Charles. You talk about obviously the support that they have for this particular Voting Right Act, but when it comes to House District 116, what exact results have you seen thus far since that act has been passed?
Well, hopefully we would take it seriously and we would all go out and vote. That was the main purpose of the fight. It's so that we can have that right to go and vote and our voices will be heard. If our voices are not heard, that means we're defeating ourselves. But if we've got the chance and the opportunity to speak, we need to use that voice to make the changes that we need.
Now, Charles, let me ask you this. When it comes to House District 116, how many total voters do you have there?
I'm not sure of the numbers, but I know that it was, I think it was 2000. I'm not sure what the number was, but I know it's in the thousand for the total district itself. And not familiar with the numbers of it because with numbers it's something that we should know, but I don't know the exact number, so I just don't want to throw a figure out there. But I really don't think about the numbers. But me personally, I think about what I can do for the people.
Yes, sir. I want to get back to that in just a second. But you talk about those numbers. So, what are the last figures of population when it comes to your district, District 116? What are the last figures of population?
I know in Parkersburg was 3,000, 2,000 something. Probably say within maybe 10, 15,000, something like that.
Okay.
For the
And
whole district.
for the whole district. So, with those people, Charles, and you've been in that district, living in there for a long time, what is the most important thing that has changed there in the past 2 years?
Well, in the past 2 years, we got a lot of development coming,
Hmm.
and in the town of Hollywood, you got development in the town of Ravenel, and the thing about the development, we got developers that are coming into the community, building and taking away from the person that's been living there for a long period of time, denying them the right, the use of their property, and they coming up with these ordinances because of what the developer wants. But it shouldn't be that way. Every town should have uh, the line drawn where, okay, this is the development, but when it comes down to the use of other people, how they use their property, that's their business.
Well,
But
let me ask you this then, Charles. So, how many people have been unfortunately pushed out of your district because of development provided by the developers?
well, in my district here, right here, and I know in the town of Ravenel, we don't have really, as far as folks being pushed out. There haven't been anybody being pushed out, but basically the towns and the communities have been constantly growing at a fast rate.
At a fast rate. So, what has been the pace of growth in that district?
I'm not sure, but I know in Charleston as a whole is 16 to 1700 person per month that's moving into Charleston County.
Wow. So, Charles, when it goes back to the development, what exactly does the developer want? And what exactly does the people who actually been living there for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, what do they want in order to stay there and not be pushed out by developers?
Well, when you got development coming in, they start setting ordinance in the town stating that loud noise ordinance because you got a big subdivision next to you. Now you've been playing music in your yard, cooking out in your yard for a long time. Hey, you playing music in your yard. Here come the police saying that, oh, you have to turn that down now because you're making too much noise because of the ordinance of the town. Okay, but you got to remember, we were here before the subdivision came.
Mm. Yes, sir.
And have cars in the yard. Now you got some of them. If you got 5 cars in your yard, they saying that they got a problem with that now. That you can't have 5 cars in your yard.
Wow. So
That's what's going on here in the town of Ravenel.
Town of Ravenel. And what are the other quality of life issues that are affecting these existing residents that live in that district?
Well, the quality of life. Everybody like the peace and quiet in the country setting. You know, you can sit outside in the screen. You got your little tent out. You know, and enjoying your life really, because you don't have no space.
Mm.
Ain't nothing you can do there because of the fact that the growth is there is so tremendous and you don't have no space.
Mm.
But in the country, in the rural area setting, you can walk out your door. You can have to. That's why I love moving to the country.
Yes, sir.
Because,
yes, sir.
because of the rural area setting.
Yes, sir. Quickly, I know you're busy. You're getting a lot of phone calls, so that's why we're having all of these audio interruptions here. But the South Carolina governor this past year signed a bill allowing permitless handgun to be carried into law. And this is coming from WSPA. South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster signed into law a bill allowing adults to carry loaded handguns openly with no permit or training. Adults 18 plus who can legally possess guns can now openly carry them with no permit or prior training. I know that you have a lot of experience in law enforcement, having been in law enforcement. Do you believe, Charles, that this bill affirms Second Amendment rights rather than any expansions?
Well, I can say for that, Quintin, I disagree with what the governor did because you just open up the okey doke corral. They think that there's been less shooting here in the past couple of years. The gun violence have cut down a little bit, but you just open up the floodgate. Now you don't have a license to carry a gun when everybody was getting carrying concealed permits. But now you don't need one. So now there's going to be justifiable shooting. But the law has been passed. I can carry a gun. So if somebody mash on my toe, I shoot that person, then what? You know, there's no management. There's no training there. People just going to start shooting each other and don't even have a second thought about it because now I can carry a gun and I don't have to worry about anything.
That brings me to my next question, Charles. Now that they're actually, those people are actually carrying openly, which is legal. How would somebody know that a convicted felon or not who's legally carrying a registered gun?
Well, nobody would know. Nobody would know because you've had guns from South Carolina. And disposed of, but it's not doing no good when the same guns that y'all refurbish, only thing y'all doing is selling to the gun sales, and the only thing they're doing is taking the same revolvers of a police officer and bringing it right back into the street again at another sale. So we really creating monsters. Really, we creating a thing where gun violence is going to be off the chain. We're going to be a mini New York, the way New York used to been one time. They've been killing 24/7 one time in New York. And it's going to be the same here. Why? Because of that gun law that he passed.
Well, since it's been passed, how much has gun violence gone up in your district?
Well, we've had several, especially in the Baltimore area. There's been several gun shootings here within the past weekend. We've had a young lady that was just recently killed. She went with some friends to to a graduation party. Now you got an innocent bystander being shot. So my thing is, bullets don't have a name on it, and gun violence is going up because they shooting and they don't care who they kill. They care less about who they kill. But we need to go back to the old landmark. You're going to be held accountable for your action. We need to go back. The governor need to go back and reconsider a gun law that's going to have everybody that wants to carry a gun. You got to go back to the carry, conceal, permits. We have to do that. If not, everybody and their mama gonna be walking around with a gun, and somebody get mad, especially people with short attitude or somebody with mental condition. We don't know, but that person may have some sort of mental condition or depression. We don't know what the person is going through, and start killing people. They've had massive killing in other states, right at school. But God just spared Charleston County as a whole. We haven't had it to happen here.
Now, what type of training should people with guns and law enforcement have?
Well, with law enforcement, they have classes where they go through training, they go to the gun range, they go through the proper procedure of holstering and firing a firearm. And my thing is, everybody needs that training. If you're going to carry a firearm, you need to go through the proper training. That way, you will know what to do when the time you need to use it. That you have been trained to use a gun in a manly manner.
Now that obviously this bill has been passed, Charles, what type of different training should law enforcement have for those people who are actually carrying around stuff, guns openly?
Well, one thing for sure.
Yes, sir.
The way that things are now, I've seen some incidents where officers have flabbergasted the story about they made a car stop and the person reached for a gun and the person told them that I have a gun and I have a carry concealed permit. But then the guy moved his hand to get his paperwork and his permit and his driver's license, and the officer shot him. They shot him dead. But then they tried to hide it, but still the officer got sentenced to prison. And a lot of things we need to be trained about to know when and not to shoot somebody or pull your firearm. You only pull it when you feel that your life is in danger, but somebody is talking to you, telling you that they have a firearm in their car and they have a carry concealed permit, but then you need to respect that and say, hey, I need you to just take your one hand and just grab your license, and that way you can hand it to me. And that way, I don't feel an officer should have to go to the extreme where you have a gun pointing dead down in your face when somebody is telling you what they have, and in order for them to get the credentials and stuff, then you're going to turn around and shoot them, say that they moved and they went to pull a firearm, and which they didn't.
Well, then, Charles, let me ask you, if you were in the State House today as a state legislator, what other amendments would you add to this particular bill?
I would amend do an amendment for what the governor did, that bill that passed for open season. That's all it is, open season. And I would do an amendment to that bill, and that way everybody that wants to carry a gun needs to have a permit. They need to have something with their picture on it, the carry concealed permit, with their picture on it, and present to the officer when they're having a car stop, or if they stop you for speeding. Okay, then you just get your driver license presented to the officer, and because he stopped you for speeding. But you got some officers now, they would push it to the extreme. Okay, I stopped you for speeding, but now I need to search your car. Why are you searching my car? That has nothing to do with me speeding. So that's improper search procedure. A lot of times we have officers that was in this district that did the same things. I had students that were stopped and stating that they had a taillight out and the taillight was not out, but they wanted to search the car because there were young people inside the car. So, the law enforcement agency have to do a lot. They have to do a lot of training, and they got to do a whole lot as far as making the officer accountable for his action. That's what they need to do. Held accountable.
Have some of them been held accountable in your mind?
I don't know whether those officers that was here in the town in which I live in and within my school district, I don't know whether they're still here or not. But I also
Yes,
was
sir.
blue lighted pulling in my own yard and tell me to get out my car. Don't get out the car. I said, you crazy. I'm home. You done followed me 2 miles down the street. Matter of fact, almost 3 miles down the street because I saw an officer came out the parking lot and followed me 3 miles to my house. And you could blue light me when I turned to come in my yard? No, sir. I said, that ain't happening tonight. I don't care what you do. Bad thing you could do better call your supervisor because we're not going to do this tonight. Because first of all, I know too much for you. And if you want your job, well, then the best thing you can do is to go on about your business because you
Right. Yes.
in the area.
Yes, sir.
That's what they do. That's what they've been doing. I don't know whether it's stopped yet or not, but it's been happening here in my district.
And quickly, Charles, medical marijuana bill. That's another big topic that took place in the State House earlier this year. In your mind, from your obviously from your educational background as well as your law enforcement background, why didn't they call this particular bill a cannabis bill?
Lord in heaven knows, but marijuana is marijuana. I don't care how you fix it. You hold a pop by the handle. That's all I can say. It's marijuana. I don't care how you put it. So if they won't call it cannabis bill, they're trying to say that it's, I guess, it's a breed of the marijuana bush or what the chemicals that was added to it or what. I don't know about a chemist to really figure out
Right.
why they call it cannabis. But at the end of the day, it's still marijuana.
Should medical marijuana then be required as a prescription from a medical doctor and actually filled by a registered pharmacist, say at Walgreens or CVS?
My pet peeve on that, um, it should be filled by a pharmacist. A lot of time, all joke aside, sometimes people go through depression and stuff, and the marijuana would help relieve some of the tension and the stress that that person is going through. So I feel that it should be uh, go through the CVS or whatever. That should be something that should be administered, called in by a doctor, and it should be given whatever doses that they have for that person to take.
And I know, obviously, a lot of people and constituents in your district. When it comes to this particular bill, Charles, why not just let the voters decide this and put it on a referendum from next year?
Did not quite hear the whole question.
No worries. Obviously, a lot of constituents in your district. When it comes to the medical marijuana bill, why not? Why shouldn't this? Why should the state? Well, why didn't or haven't the state decided to let the voters decide this in a referendum?
Well, I don't know why, but they should. They should let the voters make that decision. If they make that decision, then matter of fact, I heard that they're trying to push a bill to have marijuana legal in the state of South Carolina, and if that's what takes place, well, once they legalize it, that's gonna be it. It's gonna be legalized, and is whoever will let them come. That's just how it's gonna be. Everybody be smoking marijuana, whoever wants to.
Now, going back obviously to politics in the House District 116 seat, I know, Charles, from my understanding, you ran obviously for this particular seat a couple of times in 2018, 2020, and 2024. As we sit here right now, Charles, are you running for your ego? Or are you actually running for the people?
Actually, I'm running for the people because there have been too many shipwrecks out there, and this 116 district has been set back at least 20 years. At least 20 years because nothing had been done districts as a whole. And I see this for myself. Quintin, I brought millions of dollars into the Parkers Ferry community. Got a fire station built there. It sits on an 8-acre tract of property. And we also have 21 acres for park development. I have a 1.5-mile sidewalk from Jacksonville Road down to down Parkers Ferry Road to the last street down there that goes toward Sugar Hill. and they got a crosswalk bridge where I estimated $250,000 for the steel bridge, a crosswalk bridge that they have on Parkers Ferry Road, and the east drainage that was done here also, that because we had some flooding in the community, and that was something that I fought for. I wasn't even a politician. I was only a community advocate, and if I could bring millions of dollars.
Now, let me ask you this then, Charles. You said you're a community activist, and you obviously you're not a politician yet. So who brought in these thousands of dollars for Parkers Ferry? Was it you or somebody else on a county or a city council?
Okay, repeat that last part.
Yeah, you said that you brought in you brought in thousands of dollars for the Park Ferry project that you just mentioned, but you're not a politician. You said you're a community activist. So did you advocate for this, or were you sitting on the county council? Okay, I got you. Okay.
No, sir. I advocated for it.
Okay.
And I fought for it, and that's what I do. I fight for what's right, and I don't believe in going in other communities and see that they have things that my community should have also. We all pay taxes. We all tax by the citizen. So therefore, let's spread this thing out and give me what I'm just like the prodigal son. Give me my portion.
Yes, sir.
Do what I have to do for the community. Even out in the rural area like Carterville and in the Baltimore area, Rondo area, they need help out there, but nobody's helping. So if it takes me to get the job done, that's what I would do. Whatever they need, I will see to that I will be more visible in the communities and in the district as a whole, because folks that have been elected, you don't see them until time for re-election.
Speaking of which, now I know, Charles, you only received 531 votes during the 2020 Democratic primary. What will you do? What would you have to do now to at least get 50% of this vote to help these people in Walterboro and Rondo and other areas?
Well, my thing is, as a representative, I would need the people to take in consideration experience and non-experience. Because when you go to a job, you can't get a manager job if you don't have the experience to do it. But as being a politician, a seasoned politician, I have more experience. I have the input. I have the knowledge of where to go to get what I need. And I know, as far as going to the State House, I know what I need to do when I get there to see about the different things that I need to see about as far as taking care of the people in my district, in my constituent district. And that would be something that I would be focused on. Even Walmart area, you got the far end of Johns Island. There are things that need to be done in those areas, and people out there are asking for help, but nobody's doing anything about it. So I feel if the people put their trust in me, that's all I'm asking for them to do. Put your trust in me, and just like I said, a lot of people say, well, man will fail, but God won't. If you got God with you, then all things are possible.
Now, Charles, in 2018, you actually ran in the Republican primary for the seat, but only received 780 votes. Were you a Republican at that time or a Democrat running for that seat?
The reason why I ran for that seat, because we had an elected official in our district that actually turned their back on us on that if it's going to take me to run for that seat, it don't matter how I run, but I was running to make sure that my district is taken care of and the things that we need to be looked at get done. Because we voted for you, so therefore you should be supporting us instead of turning your back on us. And that was my reason for running that ticket.
But Charles, why should people trust you when you ran for a Democrat as a Republican and now you're running as a Democrat?
Because I've always been a Democrat. If you want to go back and flip the hands of time back, you got Democrats that are Republicans. You got Republicans that are Democrats. So it's not who the person is and what the person can do when they get elected for that position.
And as a disclaimer, as I told you, and I'm going to tell the viewers as well, I reached out to Reverend Charles Murray for an interview. He says he'll get back to me, but the primary is next week on June 11th. So I hope to get him on Quintin's Close-Ups. But for now, I thank you for your time, Reverend Charles Murray Sr. here on Quintin's Close-Ups.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.